Have you ever been stuck in a cycle of knowing exactly what you need to do, but somehow still feeling paralyzed by the question of where to start? You've got the knowledge, you've got the vision, you've got the drive to make things happen. You've done the research, you've gathered the resources, and maybe you even have a list of goals. But there's a catch. No matter how much you know, taking that first step always feels like the hardest thing in the world. It's frustrating, isn't it? To be so aware of what you need to do, but to still be trapped in a feeling of confusion, doubt, and overwhelm when it comes to actually beginning. You may feel like you're stuck in a constant loop of thinking about the end goal, planning, and preparing, but never actually moving forward. And it's not because you lack the potential or the ability. It's because you're missing one crucial thing: clarity on where to begin. This is something that many people face at some point in their lives. Whether it's starting a new project, taking a leap in your career, or making changes in your personal life, it's incredibly common to know what to do, but feel utterly lost when it comes to starting. So, why does this happen? And more importantly, how do we break free from it? How do we stop overthinking and actually start moving toward our goals? The first thing you need to understand is that this feeling of being stuck isn't unique to you. It's something that everyone experiences at some point. Even the most successful people, the ones who seem to have it all figured out, have been there. They've felt that same weight of indecision, that same paralysis, wondering where to begin. But here's the truth. It's not about having the perfect plan or knowing exactly how things will unfold. It's about starting, about moving, even if it's just a small step in the right direction. Let's talk about why we get stuck in the first place. We get stuck because we're often so focused on the end result that we lose sight of the process. We think that we need to have everything figured out before we take action. We think that if we don't have a clear, well-thought-out strategy from the beginning, we'll fail. And so we hesitate, we freeze, and we end up staying exactly where we are in a state of perpetual planning, but not doing. This all comes down to the concept of perfectionism. Perfectionism tells us that we have to have all the answers before we take a step. It tells us that the path must be perfectly mapped out before we start walking. It tells us that there's a right way to do everything, and if we can't find that right way, then we shouldn't start at all. But here's the harsh reality. Perfectionism is a lie. It's a trap. Because in reality, no plan is ever perfect. No strategy is ever flawless. The most successful people didn't get to where they are by waiting for the perfect moment or by having everything figured out from the start. They got there by taking action, by starting with what they had and figuring things out as they went. Think about it. How many times have you thought about doing something, starting a business, writing a book, going back to school, only to stop because you didn't know exactly where to begin? How many opportunities have passed you by because you were waiting for the perfect moment, the moment when everything aligned perfectly, when you had all the resources, the perfect plan, the perfect knowledge? If you're being honest, you'd probably say that the answer is too many times to count. The key to breaking out of this cycle is simple. Take action. Start. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need to know exactly how things will unfold. What matters is that you take that first step. It doesn't need to be big. In fact, it shouldn't be big. The idea of taking a huge leap can be paralyzing because it feels overwhelming. But if you start small, with something manageable, something that you can handle, you'll find that the rest starts to fall into place. Now you might be thinking, but how do I even know where to begin? What if I start in the wrong direction? What if I waste time on something that doesn't matter? These are valid concerns. We all want to make sure that the actions we take are meaningful and will get us closer to our goals. But here's the thing. No action is ever wasted. Even if you take a small step and it turns out not to be the perfect step, you've still gained valuable experience, valuable knowledge, and valuable insight. You've learned something, and that's progress. The truth is, you don't need to have everything figured out from the start. In fact, it's better if you don't. Because when you start without knowing everything, you're forced to learn as you go. You're forced to adapt, to be flexible, and to be open to new possibilities. And in that process, you'll discover new paths, new opportunities, and new ways of thinking that you couldn't have predicted before. So, how do you start? Where do you begin? Let's break it down. The first step in overcoming the paralyzing feeling of not knowing where to start is to acknowledge the fear. It's natural to feel afraid of taking that first step. The fear of failure, the fear of not knowing what comes next, the fear of making the wrong choice, these are all real fears that can hold us back. But the key is to face them head on. Don't ignore them. Don't try to push them away. Acknowledge them, and then choose to move forward despite them. Fear doesn't go away, but it can become something you learn to work with. Once you acknowledge the fear, break your goal down into smaller, more manageable tasks. Instead of thinking about the entire journey ahead, think about what you can do today. What small action can you take right now that will get you closer to where you want to be? It could be something as simple as writing down your goals, researching your next step, or making one phone call. The key is to make it something that's small enough that you won't feel overwhelmed, but meaningful enough to move you in the right direction. As you take that first step, embrace imperfection. Understand that things might not go as planned, and that's okay. You'll make mistakes, you'll face setbacks, and you'll learn along the way. But that's what makes the journey worthwhile. If you wait for the perfect conditions or the perfect plan, you'll never get started. So, let go of the need for everything to be perfect. Allow yourself to be imperfect. The process will teach you what you need to know. Once you take that first step, build momentum. One small action will lead to another, and before you know it, you'll have made significant progress. It's easy to get discouraged when you're not seeing instant results, but remember that progress is progress, no matter how small. Trust the process and keep moving forward. The more you do, the more confidence you'll build in yourself and in your ability to make things happen. Finally, be patient with yourself. Starting can be hard, and it's normal to feel uncertain, but that doesn't mean you're failing. It just means you're in the process of growth. Allow yourself the space to stumble, to figure things out, and to make mistakes along the way. You're learning, and every step, no matter how small, is a step forward.